The monitoring station floated in the void between star systems, its crystalline arrays drinking in electromagnetic whispers from 100 worlds. Inside, senior analyst Vexith manipulated holographic data streams with the casual boredom of someone who had been watching the same species make the same mistakes for 3 decades. Another power surge from Sector 7 Alpha, announced junior technician Mordai, his carapace clicking against his workstation. Third one this cycle. Vexith didn't look up from his probability matrices. Humans again? Always humans. They blow out grid substations like other species change atmospheric filters. The Keth Mori analyst's crystalline body hummed with mild amusement. Humans were endlessly entertaining in their incompetence, a species that had somehow achieved faster-than-light travel while still electrocuting themselves with alarming frequency. Their industrial accidents had become a reliable source of background chatter in intelligence circles. Energy signature analysis? Vexith asked, more from habit than interest. Approximately 847 terawatts over a 14-second duration. Standard deviation suggests another fusion containment failure. Mordai paused, mandibles twitching. Though the discharge pattern is unusual, that got Vexith's attention. In 30 years of monitoring human space, unusual meant profitable. The collective paid well for actionable intelligence on human industrial disasters. Their insurance companies loved advance warning, of which colonies were about to become radioactive craters. Define unusual. The energy release was completely linear. No fluctuations, no cascade failures, no secondary explosions. Mordai's voice carried the confusion of someone describing water flowing upward. It's like they intended to release that much power all at once. Vexith finally looked up, his faceted eyes casting prismatic reflections across the data displays. Intentional energy release of that magnitude meant one of 3 things: massive industrial project, weapons testing, or humans being humans in ways that defy conventional physics. Cross-reference with intercepted communications, he ordered. The holographic display shifted, revealing fragments of human transmissions gathered by their listening posts. Most of it was the usual detritus: shipping manifests, entertainment broadcasts, arguments about food preparation methods that somehow escalated to violence. But buried in the noise was a single encrypted burst transmission that made Vexith's crystalline structure resonate with alarm. Project Longbow shows green across all parameters. Came the voice of Dr. Jinwei, human physicist and apparent architect of whatever had just lit up their sensors. Target acquisition locked. Trajectory calculated. We are go for primary test. Mordai's carapace had gone completely still. The Vex equivalent of wide-eyed panic. That wasn't a malfunction. No! Vexith agreed, his mind racing through probability cascades. It wasn't. The implications hit both analysts simultaneously. Humans didn't do subtle. When they wanted to destroy something, they used nuclear weapons. When they wanted to move something, they strapped rockets to it. When they wanted to communicate, they broadcast signals so powerful they could be heard 3 systems away. 847 terawatts suggested they wanted to do something that required 847 terawatts. Pull the full spectrum analysis, Vexith commanded. I want electromagnetic signatures, gravitational fluctuations, and particle traces. Everything. The data painted a picture that should have been impossible. The energy had been released in a focus beam, traveling at approximately 30% light speed before impacting something in the asteroid belt beyond the human colony of New Tasmania. The target, a nickel-iron asteroid roughly 2 kilometers in diameter, had simply ceased to exist, not exploded, not fragmented. Ceased. Contact the hegemony liaison, Vexith said quietly. Priority 7. Mordai's mandibles clicked in surprise. Priority 7 meant potential threat to galactic stability. It was a classification they hadn't used since the Rigel incident, when an entire species had accidentally weaponized their reproductive cycle. Are we certain this warrants? They vaporized 2 cubic kilometers of solid metal and rock with a single shot, Vexa interrupted, from 8 million kilometers away, in a perfect straight line. That asteroid didn't explode, junior technician. It became an expanding cloud of superheated plasma, so dispersed our sensors can barely detect the residue. The mathematics were terrifying. To completely overcome the molecular binding forces of that much matter required energy densities that existed only in the hearts of stars. Humans had apparently found a way to focus that kind of power into a beam narrow enough to thread a needle. Sir, Mordai's voice had acquired the tremor of someone realizing they were suddenly very far from home. What exactly did we just witness? Vexith was already composing his report, probability matrices spinning through scenarios that range from concerning to species ending. Either humans have solved engineering problems that have stymied galactic civilization for millennia, he said slowly, or they've just invented the most terrifying weapon in known space. He paused, reviewing the data one more time to ensure his analysis was correct. The energy signature was clean, focused, and absolutely lethal. Whatever Project Longbow was, it worked exactly as intended. Contact Admiral Kestar as well, he added, military priority. And give me everything we have on human, industrial capacity. I have a feeling 847 terawatts was just a test run. The monitoring station hummed with sudden activity as analysts scrambled to reassess 3 decades of intelligence on humanity. Outside, the void continued its ancient silence, indifferent to the fact that one species had just announced its arrival on the galactic stage with a display of casual violence that redefined the possible. In the expanding plasma cloud that had once been an asteroid, metal atoms danced with rock atoms in a superheated ballet, their molecular bonds shattered by forces they had never been designed to withstand. The humans called it a successful test. The galaxy was about to call it something else entirely. Admiral Kestar's war room had seen 3 galactic conflicts, 2 diplomatic crises, and 1 unfortunate incident involving a delegation of methane-breathing ambassadors who had accidentally ignited their own atmosphere. None of those experiences had prepared her for the current situation. Show me the projections again, she commanded, her forearms manipulating holographic displays with practiced efficiency. Commander Thelos, head of tactical analysis, gestured toward the central display. Mass driver technology, but scale beyond anything in our databases. The projectile achieves 37% light speed before impact. Impossible. The energy requirements alone would melt any conventional acceleration system. Yes, but humans aren't using conventional systems. Thelios highlighted a section of intercepted technical specifications. They're using magnetic field manipulation on a planetary scale. The entire weapon system is buried across a moon surface. Kestar's secondary eyes focus on the schematic. Humans had apparently decided that if you needed to accelerate something to relativistic speeds, you simply build a magnetic acceleration tunnel 3,000 kilometers long and powered it with the output of fusion reactors that would normally supply an entire star system. Construction timeline? 7 standard years. They excavated an entire lunar surface and installed superconducting coils that dwarf our largest orbital installations. Thelios paused, consulting additional data. Intelligence suggests they called it a weekend project in their public communications. 7 years is not a weekend. No, Admiral, but they apparently consider any project under a decade to be short-term. Strategic Advisor H.Y.X.Nell, representative of the Quantium Hegemony Science Division, interjected from her position at the analysis station. The theoretical framework is sound, if completely insane. They've created a magnetically levitated projectile system that treats physics like an engineering challenge rather than a fundamental limitation. Meaning they looked at the speed of light and decided it was merely a suggestion to be ignored through brute force engineering. Kestar studied the tactical implications while her staff continued their analysis. A weapon capable of destroying targets across interplanetary distances, with zero travel time, represented a paradigm shift in military doctrine. Traditional fleet engagements assumed reaction times measured in hours or days. This eliminated reaction time entirely. Counter-strategies? Limited, admitted Thelos. Kinetic interceptors are useless. You can't intercept something traveling at 37% of light speed. Energy shields would need to dissipate more power than most stars produce. Our best option is ensuring we're never in the same star system as anything they want to destroy. Comforting. Kestar's tone suggested it was anything but. What about their production capacity? HYXNL manipulated her data streams with obvious reluctance. Here's where the situation becomes truly alarming. Humans don't appear to understand the concept of unique prototype weapons. They've already begun construction on 3 additional installations. Installations? Plural? 1 per inhabited system, with plans for orbital platforms that can be repositioned as needed. HYXNL's bioluminescent patches flickered with what passed for anxiety among her species. They're treating galaxy-reshaping weapons technology like infrastructure projects. The room fell silent as that information settled. Most species developed devastating weapons in secret, deployed them carefully, and used them as diplomatic leverage. Humans appear to be mass-producing them with the same casual efficiency they applied to manufacturing atmospheric processors. Admiral. Communications officer Zuaxera spoke up from her station. We're receiving additional intelligence from the monitoring stations. The humans have designated their weapon system as Project Longbow. Are we certain it's a weapon system? Kestar asked, could this have defensive applications? Thel IOS consulted his tactical analysis. A weapon capable of accelerating projectiles to near light speed has exactly one application, Admiral, making things that exist stop existing, from distances that render retaliation impossible. HYXNL added, though intercepted communications suggest that humans view it as a precision tool for mining applications. Mining? Apparently they define mining as removing unwanted matter from desired locations. This includes asteroids, planetary surfaces, and presumably anything else that inconveniences them. Kestar processed this through the lens of human psychology as understood by hegemony intelligence. Humans possess an alarming tendency to solve complex problems with overwhelming force, then act surprised when others found their solutions terrifying. They had once ended a planetary war by dropping rocks from orbit, then expressed confusion when survivors called a war crime rather than efficient conflict resolution. Strategic assessment? They've rendered traditional fleet tactics obsolete, the LOS stated flatly. Any engagement within their weapons range becomes a question of who can fire first, and they can fire from distances we can't even detect them at. But surely they understand the destabilizing effects. Intelligence intercepts suggest they're planning to offer the technology for sale to qualified buyers interested in asteroid management solutions. HYXNL's patches had dimmed to barely visible flickers. They appear to view galaxy-reshaping weapons as a commercial opportunity. The implications cascaded through Kestar's strategic planning matrices like a virus. If humans began selling their technology, the current balance of power wouldn't just shift. It would collapse entirely. Species that had maintained stability through careful military equilibrium would find themselves either purchasing human weapons or becoming targets for those who did. Contact the Council. Emergency session, classification black. Kestar stood, her forearms moving in complex patterns that indicated both resolve and underlying terror. We need to determine whether we're looking at a new galactic superpower or a species that's about to accidentally end civilization as we know it. What if it's both? Asked Delos quietly. Kestar paused at the war room's exit, considering the question that had been lurking beneath their entire analysis. Then we learn to adapt very quickly, Commander, because the alternative is learning what it feels like to be an asteroid. The emergency diplomatic chamber aboard Station Nexus 7 had hosted trade negotiations, territorial disputes, and one memorable incident where two species had declared war over sandwich nomenclature. Ambassador Thexnai had mediated them all with the weary competence of someone who understood that most interstellar conflicts stem from mutual misunderstanding and wounded pride. Today's crisis was different. Today, one species had casual access to physics-defying superweapons and didn't seem to realize why that was terrifying. The Terran delegation will see you now, announced Protocol Officer Yithmar, his ceremonial robes rustling with barely concealed nervousness. Ambassador Rivera entered with the relaxed stride of someone attending a routine agricultural conference rather than an emergency session about galactic stability. Behind her, Technical Advisor Dr. Petrov carried what appeared to be vacation photos and a steaming beverage that smelled faintly of burnt hydrocarbons. Lovely station, Rivera commented, settling into her chair with obvious comfort. The artificial gravity is remarkably stable. Our compliments to your engineers. Thex and I have prepared 17 different diplomatic approaches for this conversation. Rivera's cheerful casualness invalidated most of them. Ambassador Rivera, thank you for accepting our invitation on such short notice. Not a problem. We had some free time between committee meetings anyway. Rivera sipped her beverage. Dr. Petrov here was just showing me pictures from his daughter's graduation. Apparently, she's starting graduate work in applied xenobiology. Fascinating field. Indeed. Thex and I struggled to reconcile this domestic pleasantry with species-ending weapons technology. Perhaps we could discuss your recent industrial developments? The mining initiative? Certainly. We're quite proud of the results so far. Dr. Petrov nodded enthusiastically. Phase 1 testing exceeded all projected parameters. Clean extraction, minimal debris scatter, highly efficient energy utilization. Representative Kexthal of the Vex Collective leaned forward, his compound eyes reflecting frustration. You vaporize an entire asteroid with a single projectile traveling at 37% light speed. 39% actually. Dr. Petrov corrected mildly. We've made some calibration improvements since the initial tests. The correction landed in the chamber like a physical blow. Thex and I watched as 3 different species ambassadors simultaneously realized that humans have been refining their impossible technology while everyone else was still processing its existence. This mining initiative, Thex and I continued carefully, involves permanent installations capable of similar extraction events. Oh, yes, we're planning comprehensive coverage, Rivera replied. The current timeline calls for 12 operational sites within 5 standard years, with portable units for specialized applications. Portable, ship-mounted systems for mobile operations. Smaller scale, naturally, maybe only 10% light speed for the compact models. Dr. Petrov's team has been working on miniaturization challenges. Dr. Petrov beamed with parental pride for his death ray offspring. The engineering hurdles were significant, but we've achieved remarkable size reductions. The Mark IV prototypes can be installed on standard cargo haulers. Ambassador Krilltex of the Hegemony had been silent throughout the exchange, but now spoke with the measured tone of someone choosing words very carefully. Ambassador Rivera, surely you understand the strategic implications of this technology? Strategic implications? Weapons capable of destroying targets across interplanetary distances, with 0 defensive countermeasures available to existing military doctrine. Rivera and Dr. Petrov exchanged glances that suggested they were communicating on a frequency no one else could detect. Ambassador Krilltex, Rivera said slowly, are you under the impression that we develop weapons? You have projectile systems capable of accelerating matter to near relativistic velocities. For asteroid processing, the same systems could theoretically target space installations. Well, yes, if someone built space installations inside asteroid belts and didn't respond to navigational warnings. Rivera's tone carried the patience of someone explaining why water was wet, but that would be rather poor urban planning, wouldn't it? Thex and I watched the humans deflect every diplomatic probe with cheerful literalism that was either breathtakingly naive or ruthlessly calculated. Perhaps we could discuss some form of mutual oversight, international monitoring of these mining operations. International? But these are domestic infrastructure projects. Dr. Petrov looked genuinely confused. Would you expect oversight of our atmospheric processors or water reclamation systems? Those don't vaporize 2-kilometer asteroids. Neither did our water reclamation systems, until we upgraded them for efficiency. Engineering is an iterative process, Ambassador. The casual mention of weaponized water treatment sent a chill through the assembled delegates that had nothing to do with the station's climate control. Representative Kexthal tried a different approach. What safeguards exist to prevent accidents? Comprehensive safety protocols. Rivera assured him. Multiple targeting confirmations, clear zone verification, automated abort sequences. We haven't had a single unintended discharge. Yet, Rivera agreed pleasantly. Though our safety record on industrial projects is generally quite good, we've gone almost 6 months without anyone accidentally igniting an atmosphere. 6 months? That one was technically off-world, so it probably shouldn't count toward our official statistics. Dr. Petrov nodded. Besides, the environmental restoration went faster than projected, barely set the terraforming schedule back at all. Thex and I realized that traditional diplomatic solutions, treaties, oversight committees, economic incentives, were fundamentally inadequate when dealing with a species that treated galaxy-reshaping technology as routine municipal engineering. The humans weren't being evasive or deceptive. They genuinely didn't understand why anyone would object to their casual deployment of superweapons. Ambassador Rivera, Thex and I said finally, what would it take to limit the deployment of these systems? Rivera considered the question with obvious puzzlement. Limit deployment? But we barely begun addressing the asteroid management needs in our local systems. There are thousands of potentially hazardous objects that need processing. Perhaps a moratorium until proper regulatory frameworks. Moratorium? Dr. Petrov looked genuinely alarmed. Do you have any idea how much debris accumulates in a single orbital period? Without regular processing, we'd have navigation hazards throughout inhabited space. And Rivera added with the tone of someone delivering excellent news, we're already taking orders for our surplus capacity. Apparently other species have similar debris management issues. The chamber fell silent as that information processed. The humans weren't just keeping their impossible technology. They were planning to distribute to anyone with asteroid problems and sufficient credit ratings. How many orders? Krilltex asked weakly. 17 systems so far, with interest inquiries from 43 others. Dr. Petrov's team is working on streamlined installation procedures. We're very excited about the export potential, Dr. Petrov added. It's always gratifying when your engineering solutions have broad applications. Thex and I stared at the humans who had just announced the end of galactic military stability, with the enthusiasm of municipal contractors discussing sewer upgrades. I see, he said finally. And when might these installations become operational? The first client deliveries are scheduled for next quarter, Rivera replied cheerfully. We're hoping to have most orders fulfilled within 2 standard years. 2 years. Less, if we can optimize the manufacturing process. Humans do enjoy a challenge. As the humans gather their materials to leave, Dex and I realized that the galaxy had approximately 24 months to adapt to a new reality where anyone with mining permits could purchase planet-killing technology from a species that considered such capabilities a customer service feature. "Thank you for your time, ambassadors," Rivera said as they reached the chamber exit. "Always a pleasure discussing infrastructure development with colleagues." After they left, the remaining delegates sat in stunned silence, each contemplating the same terrible realization. The humans weren't trying to destabilize galactic civilization. They were just being helpful. 6 months after the diplomatic disaster that historians would eventually call the infrastructure incident, the galaxy had settled into what could generously be described as functional neurosis. Chief Technology Officer BYXNL of the Rigelian Syndicate stared at the wreckage of his research division's latest attempt to reverse engineer human railgun technology. What remained of Laboratory Complex 7 was now a crater approximately 50 meters deep and perfectly circular, the hallmark of another magnetic containment failure. "How many physicists this time?" asked his assistant, Director Wexdan, with the weary resignation of someone who had stopped being surprised by personnel casualties. 12, though technically 3 of them were incinerated, so completely we're counting them as missing rather than deceased for insurance purposes. BYXNL consulted his damage assessment. "The good news is we managed to accelerate a test projectile to almost 3% light speed before the entire facility achieved spontaneous plasma conversion. 3% represents progress. If you ignore the fact that humans achieve 39% without apparently breaking any safety regulations." BYXNL's frustration had evolved beyond anger into a kind of philosophical acceptance of cosmic injustice. Their technical manuals read like cooking instructions. Install superconducting array. Calibrate magnetic field generators. Fire at will. Wexdan nodded toward the intelligence report stacked on BYXNL's desk. "What's the current market status?" "Humans have fulfilled contracts with 19 client species. Each installation is functioning exactly as advertised. Complete asteroid elimination with 0 technical difficulties." BYXNL's tone suggested he found this more personally insulting than professionally concerning. "Meanwhile, our attempts to build comparable systems have resulted in the accidental sterilization of 4 moons and 1 small planet. The Zephyrians tried to create a scaled-down version using their existing particle accelerator technology. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems." BYXNL paused. Humans sent them a sympathy card and a discount coupon for replacement equipment. The irony was suffocating. Species that had mastered interstellar travel, quantum computing, and consciousness transfer were being reduced to customers for human infrastructure services. The economic implications were staggering. Entire military budgets were being redirected toward purchasing defensive mining systems from the people who had accidentally made conventional warfare obsolete. Director Wexdan came the voice of communications specialist TYXera over facility intercom. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Terran Commercial Services." BYXNL and Wexdan exchanged glances. Human commercial communications had become objects of morbid fascination throughout the galaxy. Cheerful announcements of technological achievements that redefined the boundaries of the possible. On screen, the holographic display materialized, revealing the familiar face of human sales representative Janet Chun. No relation to Admiral Chun, according to biographical notes, though the distinction seemed academic when dealing with a species where everyone appeared equally capable of casual extinction-level engineering. "Greetings from Terran Industrial Solutions," Chin announced with the bright enthusiasm of someone selling home improvement products rather than galactic paradigm shifts. "We're excited to announce the successful completion of Project Javelin, our next-generation materials transport system." BYXNL felt his thoracic cavity contract involuntarily. If Project Longbow had revolutionized asteroid management, Project Javelin likely represented something even more fundamentally disturbing. Building on the success of our Railgun technology, Chin continued, Project Javelin represents a breakthrough in long-distance logistics. Our new system can deliver cargo packages to neighboring galaxies with delivery times under 50 standard years. Neighboring galaxies, Wexdan repeated weakly. The Andromeda Shipping Initiative begins next quarter, with regular freight service to 17 target systems. We're particularly excited about the cultural exchange opportunities this creates. BYXNL realized with dawning horror that humans had not built their railgun technology for military applications or even asteroid processing. They had built it because they wanted to send mail to other galaxies and considered 50-year delivery times acceptably expedient. Promotional rates are available for early adopters, Chin added, and we're offering bulk discounts for multi-generational shipping contracts. The transmission ended, leaving BYXNL and Wexdan staring at a blank screen while their understanding of human psychology underwent another fundamental revision. They built galaxy-spanning weapons technology, Wexdan said slowly, for postal services. Intergalactic postal services, BYXNL corrected, with promotional rates. The two Rigelians sat in contemplative silence, processing the latest evidence that humans approached engineering challenges with a combination of ambition and casual disregard for conventional limitations that bordered on species-level insanity. Sir, Tuexera's voice crackled over the intercom again. We're also receiving reports that human cargo packages to Andromeda include live colonists in cryogenic suspension. They're shooting people to other galaxies? Volunteers, apparently. The applications process is reportedly quite competitive. BYXNL reviewed the accumulated evidence of human technological development over the past months. Weapons that weren't weapons. Infrastructure projects that reshaped galactic military doctrine. Shipping services that treated intergalactic distances as minor logistical challenges. Director Wexdan, he said finally, what do our xenopsychology reports say about human long-term planning capabilities? Wexdan consulted his files with obvious reluctance. According to our analysts, humans appear to operate on geological timescales while maintaining the attention span of small children. Meaning they're probably already working on projects that will make intergalactic railguns look like primitive tools. BYXNL considered this possibility while reviewing the smoking crater that had once housed their most advanced research facility. In the distance, construction crews were already preparing to build Laboratory Complex 8, where they would undoubtedly achieve new and spectacular failures in their ongoing attempts to match human engineering capabilities. Contact the procurement department, he instructed. Place an order with Terran Industrial Solutions for 3 standard mining packages, plus extended warranties. Sir, if we can't build their technology, we might as well purchase it. At least their equipment comes with customer service. As Wexdan departed to process the order, BYXNL remained at his observation window, contemplating the new galactic reality where the most dangerous species in known space considered planet-killing weapons to be customer convenience features. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance, indifferent to the fact that one particular species had looked at the vast distances between them and decided that was simply another engineering problem to be solved with sufficient application of kinetic energy. The humans, it seemed, had finally found their place in the universe. They just hadn't bothered to ask if the universe was ready for them.